there you were, sort of 2 or 3 years ago, minding your own business. How on earth did you come up with this?
Well, we were actually supposed to be working on something else, and we got a little bored with that because we weren't as emotionally invested in as we should have been in that startup. So what we did was we took a little time to just to hack and just to play and just to try to create something that we would be interested in. And one of the engineers that was working with my co-founder Evan and I at the time, named Jack Dorsey, we paired up together and we started building on something that he'd been noodling with for a while, which was the idea of a personal status message. He had worked previously creating software for dispatch systems for things like taxi cabs and ambulances and things like that. And he knew of Evan and I's decade of building social media tools and ways for people to exchange information openly with one another. And so he just said, basically inspired by the idea of, if you look at a buddy list in an instant message application, you can see someone's why they're not online is because they're out for coffee, they're out sick today, they're not available, whatever it is. What if we took that and we made that into a service? So we took 2 weeks, we built a prototype, we asked our friends to try it, and that was the beginning of it. Many people just thought it was too simple and didn't really want to work on it with us, but as it began to attract more and more people, it became a little bit of something.
And Stephen, you are the ultimate paradox, really. You're associated with high culture. We're all going to be very nice to you because you decide who gets the blue plaques in this city. Your love of classics is legendary, and yet you've embraced Twitter in a way that few others have. No paradox there?
It may seem, if not paradoxical, I don't know, counterintuitive or surprising, but I suppose to live up to your hideous interpretation of me as a lover of classics. If you look back at a time that is similar, not classical antiquity, but neoclassical antiquity, in the early part, the first quarter of the 18th century, at a time when printing presses suddenly became very manageable, there arose an enormous explosion of broadsheets and circulars and magazines, what we call magazines, and journals. And oddly enough, the ones that have survived, mostly, are also with names that aren't debate, ponder, furiously rage, consider, calculate. They're called Tatler, Idler, Rambler. Very, very similar names, Spectator, to Twitter. And it's interesting how this and I think Biz said a very, very revealing thing that I think should be carved in stone over any place that wants to call itself interested in innovation. And that is, he said, in the very first sentence, he said, we weren't really emotionally connected to whatever we were working on at the time. And that's the key. The thing to me about Twitter is that it understands, as any great service does, that human beings are firstly emotional creatures. Not firstly intellectual or reasoning creatures, but firstly emotional creatures. And it is our desire to connect, to flirt, to be loved, to be noticed, to notice others, to compliment, to self-deprecate, to use the full range of our emotional vocabulary is the first thing that comes to us. And one of the things I always loved about the internet is that it is a literary form. It sounds very odd to say literary, but I think people on the telephone are scared and difficult. Gender, age, class and education come into play in real-time vocal communication. But as soon as you can write, which is a literary form, people, even the most apparently nerdy and people whose affect is totally scared, you see them write an email. The most geeky person you think doesn't have any wit or sophistication at all, once they write an email, all the self-irony, the awareness, the wit comes out. And I think, although there are splendid little things that attach themselves to Twitter, like Audioboo, a British one, for example, that uses sound, I still think it's the fact that you write makes us free, and it's emotional writing, and all the rest, maximize your Twitter potential for corporations, all that can go hang, as far as I'm concerned.
Reid, you're one of the pioneers of the field, founder of LinkedIn, at the outset of PayPal. Did you ever imagine that the social media, the social web, would reach the stage it is reached today?
Actually, my view is, to put it in the American, you haven't seen anything yet. I mean, one of the things that I actually love about the internet is every individual now has a voice that can participate. I think part of the difference between Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 is now people participate with their real identity and real relationships and what applications are built upon it. And that's the thing that I think causes a massive revolution in kind of participation. And one of the things that is kind of a 1960s phrase that I think is interestingly repurposed for modern times is power to the people. Because I think in terms of expression of voices, people making connections, whether for kind of emotional and expressive reasons, or for productivity and business reasons, I think that the net output is enormously good. And I think truly, and this is both as the kind of co-founder of LinkedIn and as an investor in a wide variety of these properties, I think we haven't seen anything yet.
If Reed is right, we ain't seen nothing yet. Where's this going?
Well, I think he's right, especially when you think about Twitter, because we're a 2-year-old company, so we have a lot of growing to do. I think where we're headed is where we started from our perspective, anyways, which is mobile. We're one of the few internet companies that kind of has mobile at its DNA. The 140 characters of text is there because there's 160 characters of text limit on international SMS, and we started out purely as a mobile play, and then we added the web. And when we look at where we can grow and where we can do the most good, we look to the over 4 billion active mobile phones accounts in the world, as compared to the only 1.65 billion active web accounts. So when you look at these things together, you can see the potential for growth for Twitter. And I think when you think about it, it's kind of a wider web. There are regions of the world that the internet doesn't reach, and yet mobile phone service does. And there are regions of the world where the PC internet is being skipped entirely in favor of going directly to kind of a mobile internet. And Twitter, I think, is uniquely placed to be able to grow into that space and to be able to do good in that space and be able to connect people and allow them access to information they otherwise wouldn't have.
And did Stephen Fry's comments about the emotional power of
absolutely
resonate?
Absolutely true. I mean that was where we came from. We just weren't emotionally invested in our product, and the more we look at Twitter, what we've seen is Twitter has kind of taught us what it wanted to be over the last 2 years, and when we saw people coming together, during geopolitical events or during disasters and things like this, a friend of mine asked me, "What do you hope people will say about Twitter in 5 to 10 years?" And my answer to him, which I was surprised to hear myself say, was that I hope people will not consider Twitter a triumph of technology, but instead that they will consider it a triumph of humanity.